Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class today. Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at GCN. I'm Vincent Finelli. Dr. Rick Miller is with us. Welcome, Ricky.
Good morning. Well, I can't hear you at all, and my phone is so old that it's falling apart. None of the features work on it correctly now, and it gets much, much worse. I don't know if it's my telephone or what's actually happening to me at home, but I have been compromised in both my computers and my emails, and it goes downhill from there. I had one sale from Carillion Photography. How does that work?
Well, you know, Rick.
No. This is orchestrated because the synchronicity is so bad. I have actually a closed caption telephone coming in free tomorrow. They're going to set one up for me. I have to physically go back to work. I'm now seeking employment anywhere. It's that bad.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about applying to be a mechanic at Walmart. Now, I kid you not. I was thinking about doing that.
Weimart, that's where I've applied at Weimart. Rogue Community College has some tutor positions open. I've applied for that. Do you realize it took me 2 hours with my resume already constructed to fill out an application to work at a community college? It took me 2 hours.
Yeah.
I walked in, and anesthesiology and Boeing both hired me on the spot. What has happened with employment situations now?
Well, you know, one of the reasons why I was thinking about applying to Walmart to be a mechanic.
Your voice is extremely muffled.
Okay, well, I don't think it's our end. I think it's your end, Rick, really. One of the reasons why I was thinking of applying to be a mechanic at Walmart is to see what would happen to a guy who is 67 years old and has 52 years experience working on vehicles. And they could ask me, well, do you know about air conditioning? Sure. Can you fix them? Sure.
I'm 75. Absolutely no money, no reserves, and physically can't make bills. How does that happen to someone like me that has never had trouble making money and is a good writer?
Well, it's not just you.
On my site, I got it from Nick Begich, what the New York Times has just said about Amazon, and they are encouraging this theft of intellectual property. They are encouraging it, and I am a casualty. There's one example right there, right now. And New York Times, it's on my Facebook at facebook.com/DocRamcom. I posted it 2 days ago. Nick Begich sent it to me. New York Times on what Amazon is being rewarded to do this. Now,
well, Rick, one of the reasons.
Well, they don't want people like me apparently writing.
Well, I'm sure of that.
Scripts right now, ready for press, and I can't publish a single one because I don't have the money. I'm putting up ebooks. Why are they not selling? And why are all my emails to people like you being blocked? Yahoo is blocking me. Comcast is blocking me. Juno is blocking me. I have, and did I mention, my computer has been hacked, and I'm getting notices from hackers saying so. They want money from me, which I don't have, of course. I'm done.
Okay, well, it's not just you. It literally isn't you. I'm being attacked by this plague of parasites who just don't like what we say. No matter what I say, they
I'm glad
attack
he
me.
didn't write to me, because the last time someone did that to me, I ended up on their doorstep to ask them what they wanted to do. And that individual now is in federal prison up in Canada. He started threatening me, and when he did that, I got angry. And I'm doing the unexpected. I don't know what to do. I will come up with something, because that's what I do, survival-wise. But this is craziness, and I don't know what to say. I was
reading an article.
I don't want to do that. It has broken up a bunch of my relationships. Literally, my family is essentially no longer in existence. It's been shattered.
I've talked with other people, and their family relationships are going down the drain as well. What's happening is it's all this me first stuff. It's I deserve the inheritance.
Because of what you're saying, I can't hear a single thing you're saying right now.
Yeah,
it is completely muffled for me. I don't know if turning up the volume will help or whatever, but that's a fact.
Right.
Just FYI.
We'll see if yeah. Rick, I've been talking with other instructors and other people, and what people all around us are saying is family relationships are falling apart. It's not just us. It's all around us as well.
Well, I'm about to do a major radio on Wednesday with Jeff Rentz, with an individual from JPL retired in England. We're going to talk about that major fireball that's going to strike the Caribbean on Saturday. Now, it's going to happen. We are literally facing with that fire that happened on the East Coast. It's orchestrated. I'm telling you, it's orchestrated.
Rick, I don't know where to go. You said so many different things, but let me go back to applying for a job. I don't think that I could be hired as a mechanic to change oil at Walmart because they'd probably find something wrong with my application. Okay? I believe that with 50...
That's exactly what happened to me with my attempt at RCC. Yep, that's exactly what happened. It took me 2 hours to punctuate everything about saying, can we contact the employer? Going back 50 years, and I was the employer.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Well,
I got it. I had to be tenacious, but gee, and I'll bet there'll be something wrong, like I'm too old.
Well, it could be that, or we don't think that you'd be happy here because obviously you're overqualified, and gee whiz, we can't have you being unhappy, so we'll have to have some unqualified boob do that job. And that's what I think it's all about. Okay, they can't say, well, we're
for equality as of this morning, with my telephones. I'm now guessing that's also being orchestrated.
Well,
I'm telling you flat out, I can't even hardly understand what you're saying. I have a caption thing coming in tomorrow, but between here and tomorrow, what do I do with telephone?
Well, I don't know how to answer that right now live with no safety net. I don't know, but I can tell you this: that I got an email allegedly from Bluehost, the hosting service for our website, and they say they took us down because I have too many domain names, and I'm only allowed one, and I have too many. Well, I only have one domain name with Bluehost. I have a bunch that I own that are parked at GoDaddy, but has nothing to do with Bluehost, and I'm learning that Bluehost is shutting us down. Even though I took the website down, Bluehost threatened me because I have too many domain names. Who do these people think they are? Rick, it's worse than that. It's absolutely worse than that. Yeah.
That's another interesting one. That was that.
All right, how about how about the number of times you get all these spam emails, and they come back to you saying, we got you on camera, we got you doing weird things,
I have
and
that
we
every day.
know, and we know your password, and here it is. So here is your Bluehost account, here is your Bluehost email, and here is your Bluehost password. How did that happen without Bluehost being compromised?
Why am I not getting book sales when I have for 50 years had a continuous stream of orders? And I check with PayPal, and everything's kosher, but it's not. I'm getting, for example, with Bluehost, I'm getting it timed out in the communication with PayPal, and they get a Mr. Yuck face. And several of those people are now sending me checks in the mail because they can't order online. I am lost, and I am about to quit everything. There's no sense to it.
You're talking about you're talking about going John Galt. Well, Rick, I don't want to be in a contest with you about who's got it worse, but
I know it's terrible.
It is terrible. I have been trying to buy things on the internet, okay, because I hate leaving the farm.
That was yesterday, and they said my debit card was rejected. How does that work, getting my track phone? I don't get it.
Well, we're surrounded 360 degrees by incompetence, and we are targets. There's no question about it. One of the things I wanted to mention, I wanted to ask Ron Gibson what gives with this. Ron Gibson takes USA Prepares, including this broadcast, every day for years, strips out the commercials with my permission and GCN's permission. By the way, I'm going to say this. The content of USA Prepares, I own it. I own the content. So there's no question as to who owns the content of USA Prepares. Well, he strips out the commercials with my permission. GCN has agreed to it, puts it on YouTube, and then the YouTube people add 2 commercials up front, sometimes only 1, and then 11 more. So we have 12 or 13 commercials for our 138-minute broadcast, Monday through Friday. Now, what I want to know is why do we have so many commercials? And it says that we only have a couple hundred views, sometimes 500, sometimes 250, 300, 400. Why do we have 13 commercials for so few views? Something is really, really wrong. They don't want people to pay attention to us. First of all, I don't believe the number of views is right, because years ago we had views in the thousands, the many thousands, like 10,000 per day. Now it looks like we're down to 200. What's going on? Or 300 or 400 or 500. What I'm saying is I don't believe the numbers anymore. I believe that there is an orchestrated attack on people like those of us at USA Prepares. You, Guineith, John Regan. John Regan, same boat. He's written a magnificent book on what's really going on with the economy. He called what's happening right now years ago. He was right on the money. And yet, he can't get traction. And I want to talk about, when we come back, another component of this, which is called lack of loyalty. We'll be right back. Rick, it's quite clear to me that we're going down as a society, especially in the United States. And one of the things I'd like to talk about is loyalty and mentorship and helping people. And so let me just tell you a quick story. When I was growing up back in the 1960s, we lived in a neighborhood. Everyone had 1 acre. In this neighborhood, it was a 115-acre farm that was converted to a neighborhood. And it was in very rural America. It was in farmland. Well, it was on the East Coast. And many houses down the road, there was a guy who worked for Bendix Corporation. And he would see me. Now, he would see me building a go-kart out of a wood piece of shelving and an engine and a centrifugal clutch. And he would see me testing it out. And he saw the throttle system that I made. Now, I was maybe 12 years old at the most. And he saw that my throttle was a piece of string run between some picture hooks, eye hooks, and a lever. And he thought, and my seat was just a board with some L brackets holding it in place. And my brake was a drag brake that is a piece of oak that I would drag. I would pivot against the shelf board that was the go-kart frame, and it would drag against the road to slow me down. And so he saw that, and one day he came over and he said, I've got a couple things here for you. Here is some tubing, and it was nylon tubing. And he said, here's some wires, thin wires that'll fit in this very small tubing, and you can probably fabricate a throttle out of that, and it may work a little better than what you've got. And I looked at it, and I thanked him, and I made a throttle that was much better. It was more like a throttle for an automobile. But I didn't have the parts as a 12-year-old. And so he encouraged me, and he said, here, try this. He didn't say, here's what you do. He said, see if you can figure something out with this. And that's the way it was back in the 1960s. A neighbor behind us learned that I was working on a science fair project to build a computer, an analog computer, that would add, subtract, or multiply any two numbers. You had to keep track of the decimal place, but it worked. And he thought that he had a meter that would be better than what I was trying to do, and he helped me with a millivolt meter. And it was great because I got encouraged. But today, what I'm finding is that people are not interested in suggestions, guidance. And so last night we were around the kitchen table, and I was talking with Mrs. Finelli and the boys. And one of our boys, who was an adult, said, hey, Dad, how many times has anyone offered to help you around here, meaning, in Missouri or Virginia? How many times has someone said, pulled over with their truck, walked over to me in the field and said, hey, there's a better way of doing that. Why don't you consider doing this? How many times? And zero. How many times in Missouri? Zero. How many times do we try to help people? All the time. And I explained to our boys and Mrs. Finelli that, and they didn't know this because they weren't there when I was growing up, at 12 years old. I explained that that's what happened to me. And neighbors from around the neighborhood took interest in the children in the neighborhood. But nobody does that here in Missouri, in our neck of the woods. So there is no mentorship, no guidance. And so I've been teaching people, like if I see them and I know that they're destroying their truck, and we put it up on the lift and go, you know why your U-joints are bad? Because you're overloading this vehicle. It's only meant for this amount of pulling, and you're overloading it, and here's what's happening. Well, instead of saying, boy, I really appreciate that, Vin, they get mad at me. They get mad at me because I'm telling them how to prevent damaging their vehicle. Or, overloading these transmissions by pulling too much weight uphill and through the woods overheats the transmissions, and you'll burn them out, and you're looking at $2,000 to repair it, and that's why your transmission's like this. They get mad at me. So now I'm at the point where I don't care. If I see the drive shaft is wearing out, I don't say anything. If I see that they're trashing their trucks by overloading them, I don't say anything. I don't care. If the lawnmower comes over here and somebody says, hey, I broke this belt, I don't say, well, are you driving this thing into the dirt because the blades are bad? It sure looks like that. I don't do any of that anymore. I don't care because people get mad at me when I try to help them. I'd like your comments when we come back. So, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, do you find that people in your neck of the woods on the West Coast get annoyed when you give them suggestions, advice, and counsel that they didn't ask for that will actually benefit them? Do they get annoyed with you?
Of course. I mean, this is, they're seeing everything is half empty and that you're trying to criticize them, not try to help them. And you have a choice. And I am completely lost and not certain what to do. My book sales have been down to zero for more than a week. How does that work? I used to get 3 to 6 orders every day. I don't know. I know that somebody on Amazon is making a great deal of money off of my books because they're being sold. The numbers are posted on what Amazon Prime others are selling, and I'm not getting a cent on any of my work. It's very discouraging for me to want to continue writing. Why bother? It's not going to work for me. That was my only source of income. I have Social Security, which covers my rent and utilities. Does not cover my food or transportation or living needs. And that's it. I'm down to zero. How can that be with someone of my quality, talent, education? I'm 75 years old, and my children and grandchildren are, I mean, it's appalling what's happening.
I just went to eBay, and I just typed in the 3 words, Richard Allen Miller. There are 42 results selling your books right now.
It's terrible. And I know
on eBay.
It's most likely somebody I know. I'm certain of it. Passwords and all. I don't know. When we got a lawyer to help me, it turns out the lawyer was disbarred back into I'm attracting shills. And I don't know where to go with this. Mm-hmm. This after 3 years of assault from Amazon and that New York Times article that just came out saying that they are being encouraged to do this.
Well, your book, The Potential of Herbs, selling for $35 on eBay right now. The magical and ritual use of herbs is selling for brand new, Rick, brand new, for $11.11 with free shipping. Now,
and by the way, that book is $12.95 from Gordon and Inner Traditions. How can they do that? Well, they're printing on demand. Without my permission.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's another book about, this one, Richard Allen Miller, El Uso, it looks like magical ritual looks like it's in Spanish.
Yes, it is. I have them in Spanish, Portuguese, German, and Russian. Yes, sir. And those
brand
are mine
new.
Also, and I'm not getting a penny.
Rick, I'm looking at the Spanish edition, okay? And I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to say I want to buy 30 of them, okay? 30. I can't enter 30. I can only enter 10 or fewer. 10 inclusive or...
God, I'd love to have a sale like that. I'd give a 60% discount.
Rick, these guys on eBay are offering, they've got more than 10 of them are available, but you can't buy more than 10 at a time. And it's coming out of...
Be even selling those without my permission.
That's why I'm telling you this. So if you wonder why you're not selling books,
I'm penniless.
It's because everybody, Rick, everybody else is selling your books, and this guy has new books for cheap. That's his seller ID. He's selling it for, that book, the ritual book, is $7.07 shipped.
Those are, how can that be?
Well, Rick, I'm telling you, I'm just reading it. Now,
I know. And there are mass market producers now where they print more than 2,000 at a time. And that, just on the potential of herbs, there are now 4 on Amazon doing that for more than 2,000 on a given run.
Mm-hmm. Well, all I'm telling you is your books are available brand new. And I don't understand how they can be brand new.
Well, there it is. And Amazon will say, well, it's like new. The thing is, if it does not have an autograph inside it, it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you know where it's been cheated.
And there's another one of these magical and ritual use of herbs by Richard Allen Miller. There's only one left of those, and it's $7.13.
That's a $12.95 book.
Okay, how about your native plants book?
That has never been published by anybody else.
Okay, that's $45 with free shipping.
They'll say they bought it from me and are selling it new because they never opened it. If it doesn't have my signature, it didn't come from me. That's a fact.
Well, and I believe that's true because my copies have your signature in them.
And a date when I sign that signature. And it changes every day when I sign it at different days.
Here's a guy that's got your ESP induction book. Now, he only has 2 of them, and they're $35. He has 2 of them, and that shipping is $5. So, Rick, there's plenty of your books available for sale on eBay. That's what's happening to them.
I have a special on that one right now for $15. It's normally $18, and I'm selling it for $15, trying to outsell Amazon that's printing on demand with Amazon Prime. And they're still selling it cheaper with free delivery.
Yeah.
And, oh yes, free delivery in Europe, free delivery in Asia.
Well, maybe if Donald Trump's tariffs take effect, we can start manufacturing here in the United States. And when you're
contacted our Attorney General. That's who handles that kind of thing here in the state of Oregon. And they don't do that particular thing. That's the one thing they don't do. It is the one thing that the FBI, it's a federal crime on intellectual property, and they also don't do it unless I have all the details on who's doing it. And that's call Amazon. And apparently I have 2 other addresses where they send my money in different states. And they won't give me those informations because I'm not a lawyer.
You know, if you had, let me say it differently. If a person had all the information about who was doing it, that person could go and visit the criminal and settle the score right then and there.
Well, you have an assumption. First, that I have the money to be able to travel. I don't. And that it's a right address, not a Dodge or a Dropbox.
That's correct. That's correct. But what I'm saying is they're expecting that you do all the work that we used to have the government corporation do. The government is shirking its responsibility everywhere they can. There's no question in my mind. They are not here to help us.
Well, that's why they have the little logo that says this is not federally funded. It is taxpayer funded.
Rick, can we just move to just slightly back a little bit to loyalty? So here's what we're seeing. People used to bring their vehicles here because, when they got an oil change, they would get everything on the vehicle checked, all the fluids, the hoses, the belts, the differential, the bearings, the brakes, everything. All the fluids topped off.
Yeah.
Okay. All the things that are not done. Well, customers have jumped ship, and it takes 2 hours to minimum 2 hours for one of our boys to do an oil change. And it costs about $20 more than Walmart, but it's not 15 minutes. Tire pressures are checked, tread depth is checked, alignment indications are checked. The vehicle is thoroughly gone over. And now the customers are seeming to jump ship to go to Walmart because they can get an oil change for $20. So what we're finding is the same people would call us and say, hey, look, I'm stuck in a ditch. I got a flat tire. Can you come and change my tire for me? Or can you come and pick up my lawnmower for me because it doesn't run, it won't move, it's stuck, the engine won't start. The people who wanted all those services, who used to get them, you know, when they would call here and our boys would jump and take care of them, they've jumped ship and gone to the Chinese factory outlet for, well, the Chinese factory outlet says tires. It sells tires cheaper. They sell a single-ply tire, and it costs less than our cost to buy the tires. But yet, they're a cheaper tire. They're not as good. Then the tires fail, and then the customers wonder why, and the customers want us to help them. That's all stopped. All of that has stopped. We're not doing that anymore. We are not at people's beck and call because of their own selfishness and their lack of loyalty. If they expect us to be loyal, they need to be loyal. We take care of them. We work for them way less expensively than anybody else, but yet that's not good enough. So I'm wondering, are you seeing that kind of attitude, which is me first? And that's something I've been talking about for quite a long time here on USA Prepares. People don't care about each other. They don't want to help each other. They're not loyal to each other. They don't communicate with each other. They don't share ideas and opinions. They are just in their own little stupid worlds. Are you seeing that too?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is constant in every arena. It's a fragmentation of our society as a whole. This is what's breaking on America. And then you go to our children, and the way they can talk to elders and swear words, I just have never, I wouldn't dream of talking to my grandfather like I've been spoken to. It's unbelievable.
You're absolutely right, and I've seen it. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's an outrage, and we weren't raised that way. I object to it, and I absolutely, positively will not accept it. I will not embrace it, and I will not allow it. If someone uses profanity toward me, I don't deal with them. So a guy bought a truck, senior citizen, in the 70s, bought a truck from a private seller, brought it over here to have it looked at. And first indication that something was wrong was one of the lug nuts was missing. Who rides around in a truck with a lug nut missing? Well, this had a lug nut missing. And upon further inspection, it was on the lift. And our son noticed that half of the components in the cartridge oil filter system were missing. So the oil filter was just rattling around inside its housing, doing no good at all. All the engine oil was going around the oil filter. The filter was not doing anything other than being in the place where it could do something if the rest of the components of the oil filter system were in place. They were missing. So oil change after oil change after oil change have done nothing to prolong this engine's life because somebody didn't pay attention. Okay? And then the radiator had a hole in it. And the previous owner decided, well, antifreeze is expensive, and this Asian truck uses Asian red antifreeze, which is $18 a gallon. So instead of putting antifreeze in this thing, because it would just leak out the radiator hole, the seller just put water in it, which caused the water pump to fail. So when you put all the little things together that this truck needs in order to be usable, even though it has the excess wear because of the oil filters not being installed properly, it's $1,000. It's $1,000 worth of unnecessary damage because of carelessness and the lack of integrity by the seller to tell the buyer, hey, look, senior citizen buyer, look, I just want you to know there's a hole in the radiator, and if you don't fix it, you're going to overheat and you're going to destroy your engine. No, they didn't say that. Covered it all up, and here's what happens. So there's a lesson in here, class. If your engine uses coolant, which they all do. And some use green, some use yellow, some use orange, some use red, depending on the type of engine, and they're not necessarily compatible. So you got to do research about your vehicle. Well, in the antifreeze or in the coolant is a lubricant, which lubricates the water pump. The water pump has a ceramic on ceramic seal, and water doesn't lubricate that. So what happens is if you just put water, or you have too much water as diluting the antifreeze solution too much, your water pump won't get lubricated. Then water will go past the seal and will destroy the bearings on the shaft on the water pump. And if that happens, the water pump shaft can break, your fan can go through your radiator, through your air conditioning condenser, and now you're looking at many thousands of dollars damage. So you must use antifreeze as a lubricant if you want to protect your water pump from failure. Now, a water pump can cost for the part, just for the part, $200. They're very complicated now. It's not like they used to be. So what I'm saying is there's a lack of integrity with sellers. There is a lack of skill from the people who work on vehicles, and it's everywhere. That's why you have to do your own work on your own car. You can't trust it to anybody because they'll cover up that they lost the parts or they're too stupid to know how to put the oil filter together to put it in your vehicle. That's what I'm seeing all the time. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's the wrong fluids. It's the wrong, like Dexron, which is a General Motors type of transmission fluid. That'll be put in a Mercedes power steering system. It's the wrong viscosity. It will destroy the Mercedes power steering system. Now you're looking at $4,000. That's the kind of stuff that's going on everywhere. You can't trust anybody to work on your car, especially not the Chinese factory outlet. And I was thinking, boy, it'd be fun to get to work there. And I could see firsthand how bad it really is, firsthand. I see the evidence of how bad it is, but I'd really like to see these people who change the oil actually do it, right next to them, and have them tell me this is how we do it so I could learn from the best. Jeez. Rick, it's terrible. Our attitudes are bad. Young people are swearing. Even if you watch Netflix, which has become trash central, you can watch these series on Netflix, and you'll see middle-aged women using the F word on television. Now, it used to be the tough guys would do that. Now it's middle-aged and senior citizens. Where did that come from? So the young people, the millennials, have a great model to emulate. They can emulate people on television who can't seem to speak without using profanity. That's where we are. I object to it. I don't want to be around it. I won't eat food from people at restaurants that serve it who are like that. I don't want people with antennas in their faces, their tongues, their nipples, their ears. Forget it. I don't want pink hair, blue hair, orange hair. I don't want anything that's not natural. And I won't participate in it, and I won't pay for it. Rick, I'd love to hear your comments when we come back. I know I went on a rant. I'm sorry for taking so long, but gosh, we are going down, and I object to it because we all work too hard to get here to have it ruined by a bunch of perverts and parasites. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Rick, I went on a rant, and I was talking about the GDP. Do you have any comments on what I said?
And I am so depressed, I don't even want to continue. I will, but I don't want to. I've had enough, and I want to walk away from everything. Radio,
okay, that's called
writing,
that's called
everything.
going.
I've had enough. I can't continue as it is, and I don't want to whine. So what do? I don't know. And
Rick, that's called going
know,
John. That's called going John Galt. That's going Galt when you just walk away. And I'm like an inch away, maybe even not an inch away, of walking away from all of this. So I'm very serious. And let me give you an example. So there's an article in the kansascity.com, okay, as in Kansas City, Missouri. The mayor, let me just read this. The mayor of a Missouri town has resigned from his position, saying hateful comments on Facebook drove him out of office. Lexington, Missouri Mayor Fred Widener resigned effective Tuesday and explained his reason in an open letter to the city. I did not sign up for this mess, or possibly I did and just didn't realize how mean people could be, Widener said in his resignation letter. Either way, it's no longer worth the battle. There's only about 5,000 people in the city where he was mayor, which is just really close to Kansas City. He didn't realize how mean people could be. That's what I'm saying. People get mad, angry, annoyed if you give them advice and counsel that will help them. They're too stupid to call Dr. Shealy and find out what they can do to help their own lives.
You know, Norm has just gone through a health problem, and I love that man, and I so respect him. He's the kind of a person I want to be when I become his age, and he's just now in recovery. Most people don't even know he went through a serious thing.
Yeah.
You didn't, probably.
And he's a delightful man. He's willing to help everybody. And even the people who he helped, who I know personally, people who would come to the meetup for years and years and years, they turned against him. They turned against him.
I know. It's unbelievable. People are scared. They are uncertain, and their behavior shows it.
Rick, when I was an employee at the bank back in, let's say 1985, I had a boss, and I got my annual review from this boss. And he told me that I don't work well with stupid people. I mean, that's what he said. He said, Vinny, you don't work well with stupid people. I wonder what he would think now of me. Because not only don't I work well with them, I won't work with them. I don't want to be near them. Rick, I don't even want to get in my truck to go to the city to buy things, because I will be in a parking lot with these jerks who are me first. They don't pay attention. They're talking on their cell phone. They're driving through the parking lot, not paying attention. They can kill people because of their own me first greed and stupidity. And I remember when a guy ran into the back of my son. My son was stopped at a traffic light. There's a guy in front of him, The light turned red, everybody stopped, except the guy behind our son. Just drove right into the back of a 3/4-ton pickup truck, Dodge pickup truck, diesel engine. From the factory, it rumbles, it's loud. It's not like it's got a special muffler on it or no muffler to make it loud. It's loud from the factory, and that's the way it was. And it's white, and you can't miss it. And it's daytime, and this jerk drives right into the back of him. And when I heard the story was, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Is he okay? He's okay. Did you beat him up? I mean, that was my reaction. So this guy's stupidity, his carelessness, destroyed the back of our truck. Now it's a problem for us. And then what happens? I'm talking to the insurance company, and I say, well, look, it's going to take about 10 days to fix this thing. We need a vehicle. We need a truck. And they say, oh, we'll give you this little hatchback. And I go, a hatchback? I said, well, that's okay. Never mind. I got a welder. I'm just going to put a gooseneck hitch right on the roof. I'll just weld it on there because I need it. I need to tow my trailer around. So if you want to give us this little piece of junk to ride around in, I'm going to modify it, and I'm going to weld a hitch right on the roof of the car. So this guy, because he's so careless, not paying attention, causes us all kinds of problems. The downstream effect, the domino effect, whatever you want to call it. This carelessness is out of control. Rick, what about this asteroid on Saturday?
I have no idea. I just got a notice this morning on it, and then we had our radio, so I haven't had time to go vet things out. Other I've got data, and I sent it to you. You can post it, and people can come to their own conclusions. It's supposed to hit somewhere in the Caribbean. Have you noticed now how accurate NASA is becoming? And why are they not notifying people?
Well, the headline on an article that you sent me said, asteroid hits Earth 14 hours after being detected in space. It hit on June 20.
Oh, this one's already happened. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. See, I haven't even had time to vet anything yet. My email is totally broken. It's and I'm despaired. When the radio is over, I'm going to go back to bed. I can't even order track phone normally on a line anymore. I can't even do that. I'm worn out.
Rick, we had a problem. I was unhappy with Sam's Club, and they said they would buy me an annual membership. Well, we had their deluxe plus membership, which included free shipping. So I could buy things and have it shipped from Sam's Club right here to the farm, because I don't want to go to Sam's Club anymore. And so I decided that because of the ban in 16 states on phosphate, I would buy some laundry detergent in buckets. Now, I did the research, and I'm going to tell you what I found out, class. You won't believe this. So Sam's Club sells a pretty good laundry detergent in a bucket, and it's called Fresh something. Comes in a 35-pound bucket, plastic bucket with a plastic lid. It's $16.48 if you go to the store, the Sam's Club store, and pick it up. I guess they call it a warehouse. And then you pay the Springfield or whatever tax in the city that you happen to be in. It'd be Springfield, Missouri for us, which is 8 or 9% depending on which Sam's Club you go to. They have two of them in Springfield, Missouri. Well, I thought, I'll just buy it and let's see if it has free shipping. Well, I have free shipping. Now, they're going to ship this thing for free, and it weighs 35 pounds. So I went to UPS to see how much shipping would cost me. So I typed in, the rough dimensions of this bucket, and it cost $14 to ship this bucket of 35 pounds from Springfield, Missouri. That's without a box. That's without anybody putting it in a box. That's without tape. That's without a shipping label. That's without any packing. That's just if it was shipped with no extra cost, like packing materials and so forth and handling. $14. But the whole bucket with the detergent in it that weighs 35 pounds is $16.48. How can they do that? How can they ship it for $14 if the whole thing sells for $16.48? So I bought a bunch of them. You used to be able to buy oil at Walmart. They have it on sale. You could buy a gallon of oil for $14. Shipped. So what Walmart is doing is they are absolutely, positively, and Sam's Club, which is the same company, they are devastating the little guy. When they're all done with us, there'll be no little guys left. There'll be just a few big companies, and you'll have to deal with Walmart and Sam's Club. And I object to it. But I'm making the best of a bad situation while I can. If I need oil and I can get it cheaper, I'm going to go where there's no loyalty from me in terms of big corporations. There's none. They've taught me very well that it doesn't pay to be loyal to any corporation. Now, I'm loyal to people, individuals, but not corporations. I'm loyal to families, but not corporations. They've taught me. So, Mark Zuckerberg, I believe, is the number one single worst thing that happened to civilized society. I think he's the guy who's done so much damage. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about this mayor who resigned because he's being beat up on the platform called Facebook. And people with Facebook accounts can trash USA Prepares every day, all day on the Ron Gibson channel, and they like to do it. So what's going to happen? And these people, they love Rick Miller. they love Norm Shealy, they love Rich Scheben, they love Guineith Isaacs, and they beat us up. And they just trash us. But yet they listen to every word, and they believe that they can quote us chapter and verse. They are addicted to USA Preparedness, but yet they feel they need to beat us up. So I just want to let you all know, you parasites, you perverts, you trolls, that's what I'm talking about, the trolls. I'm not talking about our honest, loyal students. I'm talking about the trolls. When we go away, and when Vinny says, that's it, no notice other than that's it, and I walk away, you did it. You did it. You pathetic trolls. And I'm not going to help people. I'm going to just say, gee, I don't know. Hey, Vinny, do you know how? Gee, I don't know. Vinny, can you help me? Well, I'm kind of tied up. Hey, Vinny, I need. Gee, I don't know. Let me think about that. And I'm not the only guy that says that. There's another instructor. I won't name him, and he'll come on the air, and he might let you know that he said it. But that's his position, too. He's not willing to help people because they've taught him. They've taught him that they will take and take and take and take. And there's no reciprocation. And my boys asked me, they put me through the meat grinder last night at the kitchen table. Hey, Dad, how many people in Missouri have helped you? How many? Just name one. Go ahead, please. Hey, guys, I can't. Can you imagine? And that's the way it is. So there's a lack of loyalty. Corporations are cheating us. They are misrepresenting their products. They don't honor their warranties. They change their warranties. They change the terms. They change the conditions. And then the companies that are making big money are spying on us. Zuckerberg is the chief pervert, in my opinion. Come get me, Zuckerberg. Go ahead, try it. Class Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, and if you'd like to go to his website, it's richardallenmiller.com, richardalanmiller.com. Rick, I'd like to hear your thoughts about what I consider the electric vehicle fraud. I was reading an article that says that in Europe they are going to have solar-powered electric charging stations. This is like idiotic, in my opinion. So they've got an artist's conception of we'll call it a station. It's not, can't call it a service station because they don't do anything. You just plug in your vehicle. There's solar panels on the roof, and it's kind of like an awning where the cars park under it, and they say that all vehicles will be recharged in less than 30 minutes. Some will be recharged in 10 minutes, and they show the panels. I did a calculation. The panels, all the solar power that we have to run our entire farm on a nice, bright, sunny day, to charge one of these vehicles will take a minimum of 4 hours. They say they can do it in 30 minutes. It takes a minimum of 4 hours, and it will take all the electricity we can generate in one day to run our farm is what's needed to charge one of these vehicles. I believe the electric vehicle proposition is a fraud perpetrated on the GDP. I don't believe electric vehicles can replace gasoline vehicles because of the energy density that's in the fuel tank of a vehicle. What are your thoughts about that, Rick?
Well, you can design a folding, unfolding tent that you carry on the top of your vehicle that you can stop and charge as you go. And that would cost less than $400.
Rick, I know for a fact that that panel would not provide more than 300 watts. We're talking about a vehicle that might need 15 to 30 kilowatts.
Okay, so I'm on. Then I was in the process of designing one for a friend of mine that just bought one of the electric Chevrolets. I think it's a Chevy. I don't know what it is. I think it's a Chevy.
Well, I know that you know that 746 watts is a horsepower. I know you know that.
Yeah.
And then you have, let's say we're at 85% efficiency between the solar charger, the solar panel, the losses in the wiring, and all that. plus you have the losses in the charging of the cells themselves, the battery bank, if you will. So, you're not looking at 100%. We can't get 100%
No, but
efficient on
here's
anything.
the other thing. You can actually, one of the studies I did do is that what it would cost to put a solar panel in for your home, if you have more than 3 homes, it's cheaper to grow and set up a business growing the crystals for the 3 homes. And you have an infrastructure that is now no longer requiring outside service. And that means that if you wanted to go into partnership with 2 other people, growing it like a crop, it'd be a simple way to be independent and off the grid.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about actually growing the silicon crystals that are used in the manufacture.
Yeah, like you would a crop like carrots. It would have a bath. It would have minerals that you would put into it. Yes, growing the crystals, making your own fuel cell.
Well, what I was trying to explain is that there is this belief, marketing people, advertising people, media are trying to tell us that these gasoline powers are going to be powered vehicles and diesel powered vehicles are going to be replaced by electric vehicles, and that electricity is pollution free, which is absolute nonsense. Even with solar power, there's pollution. Okay, there absolutely is, because in the manufacturing of these solar panels and in the manufacturing of the electronics to build the charge controllers and the inverters and so forth. So there is pollution. It's not pollution free. Now, it's probably better. It probably is better than gasoline.
Well, it's cleaner but the problem is the refineries and what they do to gasoline to make it from diesel into, normal standard fuel is, the whole thing was usury, was set up to put, and it's the biggest industry in the world, the fuel cell.
Let's talk about the refinery explosion on the East Coast, the largest one, when we come back. So, Rick, we get back to physics here. There was a fire last week, and it was just outside of Philadelphia. We reported on this. There's a refinery, the largest petroleum refinery on the East Coast, blew up. Massive fire. People that were nearby thought that there was an atomic detonation. It was absolutely huge. There was a cloud that could damage the eyes, the skin, the lungs of residents nearby. The refinery fire was seen in the next state away. It was so big. And it was an old refinery. It's the oldest refinery in the country. And I made the comment that based on the pictures that I saw, the images that morning that it blew up early in the morning, and we went on the air a few hours later. And there were some pictures, and I was looking at the lack of maintenance of this particular refinery. Lots of rust everywhere. And, the plant didn't look like it had the right amount of physical maintenance to keep it running. Well, then I made the comment that I don't know if this thing is going to be put back together, repaired, because I don't know if the company that had been previously through bankruptcy twice would have enough reserves to pay for the repairs. Well, the report's out a week later. They don't. That's it. That refinery is down. They're just cleaning up, and it's going to be shut down. The company that owns it can't afford to put it back together, can't afford to repair it.
But they made the profits previous, so it's a closed business, and they'll just simply open another one.
Right. Well, since gasoline futures are up almost 9%. Now, I'm just extrapolating back to the Arab Oil Embargo of 1973, 1974, and how devastating that was Many people don't know about it. Many people who may not remember how bad it was, but those of us who lived through it absolutely do. Where you would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get in line to buy $3 worth of gasoline at a gas station. You'd wait hours and hours and hours, and you'd be in the dark with your lights off to get enough gasoline to go to work for like 2 days. You could only buy gasoline every other day. Unless you were a medical doctor, then you could get all you needed. Or if you were one of those really important government types, you could get all you needed. But there were all kinds of gimmicks going on. Like, well, you know, if you go to the local gas station, you buy a tune-up air cleaner, spark plugs, points, condenser, rotor, distributor cap, ignition wires, fuel filter. Well, they'd have to fill up your tank to make sure everything worked well. So, you know, after the gas station would only be open an hour, you know, from, let's say, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, or 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's what it was like. Do you remember that, Rick?
Yes, I do.
It was across the entire country, right?
It was terrible.
Yeah. Well, so that was what happened with a 5% reduction in oil from the Arabs. 5%. This refinery, some people think, will reduce, well, they refined 335,000 barrels of 335,000 barrels of oil a day. And diesel and gasoline and some gases like, you know, butane. Some people think that only will withdraw 2%, about 2% of the fuel that we use in the United States. Let's say they're wrong. Let's say they're just wrong by, 2%. That put us in Arab embargo territory, where you could only get gas every other day. Now, we're using way more fuel than we used to. Way more traffic. Way more cars. Way more fuel. And the choke point is the refinery. We can still pull more oil out of the ground than we need, but we can't refine it. So the choke point is the refinery. Any comments on that, Rick?
Well, that's why Venezuela and Iran are in the news today, because that will be next.
So I'm trying to decide if we should buy fuel and propane. I locked in $1.29.9 for propane. I think I'm going to do that when the ground is amenable to driving over it, so that the trucks won't trash our fields getting to our propane tank. And I'm thinking about buying some farm fuel. We did a calculation. If farm fuel, which is the same, diesel, is the same thing as home heating oil, is the same thing as over-the-road diesel. So farm fuel is diesel, but it's dyed red. It's the same stuff that truckers put in their tanks and automobiles put in their tanks that's dyed green. The only difference is the dye color and the tax. So it's taxed at about, the over-the-road diesel is taxed at about 40 cents a gallon. Farm fuel is not taxed, but it's dyed red, so you can tell the difference between the red and the green is taxed. And then heating oil is dyed red, because that's not taxed. But all those three fuels, heating oil, farm diesel or farm fuel, and over-the-road diesel, are all the same thing, except for the tax and the dye color. That's the only difference. So that means that, from what I can tell, heating, the number one heating fuel in the Northeast is fuel oil. So this winter, if it gets colder, as many are predicting, it looks like heating costs are going to skyrocket. Does that make sense to you, Rick? Or
well,
what do you think?
Why they're now talking about war? Why? I don't have any problem with Iran or Venezuela or Ecuador, and yet that's in the news also as sidebars, unrelated, but not really.
Okay, so we're having a problem with a refinery that's going to withdraw fuel from the market. And now we're talking about war which will use more fuel and blow up more infrastructure. What a great idea.
Well, it's all about money.
We had a circus last night. We had a Democrat circus, right? And those guys want to do things like, hey, let's forgive student debt. Well, I'm sorry, I was not involved in the equation where students borrowed money, okay, and promised to pay it back. I didn't make up the prices that universities are overcharging, or colleges or community colleges are overcharging for credits of knowledge. I didn't make up those prices. I didn't agree to borrow that money. I didn't agree to repayment terms. I'm not part of that equation. So why should the debt be forgiven? Why? Why? We're not involved in it. Why should we assume the cost of that, overcharging those endowments and the debt? Why should we? We shouldn't. It's not our debt. Why should we pay for it? Just like why should I and Rick Miller, why should you pay either rent, which pays property taxes, or property taxes to pay for students who are in school that aren't your family? Why do you have to pay for other people's children to go to school? Why? Why? That's what happens in the United States. And they're doing a lousy job of it at the same time. So, Rick, I think the discussion is that fuel prices are going to go up. I think it's going to affect propane. I think it's going to affect plastics. The only good thing about this is plastics will cost more. And maybe we won't be so wasteful with plastics. Any comments?
Well, what could I add to that? $5 a gallon? Oh, yeah.
I remember that. I remember $5 a gallon diesel.
Yep.
It was horrible.
And that was back when the dollar wasn't worth what it is now.
Rick, over the years I've asked you this question, and you may not be prepared for it. I don't think I'm prepared to answer the question. But what are your thoughts on what's like the worst thing that you think can happen to us? And I've asked that over the years of you. What do you think? What is your
the grid is going to go down, and we're going to have a day after tomorrow, and there will be blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Last evening, I was notified by Laclede Electric that they finally agreed that I should be a candidate because I have enough signatures on the petition to run for the board of directors of Laclede Electric Cooperative. And I'm thinking, what do I say? What do I say to people who look at each other and say, I can't remember, who is that guy that we always vote for? Who's that guy? I can't, is this him? And they keep reelecting the same people who raise the rates over and over. And they don't have to. We don't have to have these high electric rates. And what people in Missouri say is, well, it costs more in Hawaii for electricity. No kidding. No kidding. So we're not, we don't have the highest electric rate. So we're okay. They've lost their minds. Rick, I think, I'd love to hear your opinion on this too. Smart meters.
Smart meters.
I believe.
Okay. Yeah, smart meters are an endgame weapon where law enforcement is no longer needed. I have explained that on other shows. It is toxic. It has LD50 ratios, and everybody knows that it's not good, yet why are they pushing it anyway?
Do you believe that smart meters can cause cancer?
Oh, they absolutely can. And Paradise was a community that was all smart metered up and is now gone. They are not allowed to rebuild. And PG&A is devoid, has gone bankruptcy, and said so. And watch what happens with fire season coming up here on the West Coast.
They're saying now that the cathedral at Notre Dame in France, that massive, massive destruction and fire could have been caused by one of two things.
That was the smart meter. And they go unstable. And that so-called blue laser light that they say is a particle beam weapon, that's how the smart meter's bandwidth talks from one to the other in that little frequency band. And that's what it was they went unstable. And the 1,500 people that are so-called still unaccounted for are in ashes because the flames were so hot that it slagged steel.
Last night, I woke up and I decided to do something I haven't done in decades, and that is listen to the radio. I want to tell you a little bit about what I learned. I think it's interesting. We'll be right back. It has to do with physics. Doc Ram's with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, richardallenmiller.com. There's the extremely low frequency, and these are the bands, okay? Extremely low frequency, super low frequency, ultra low frequency, very low frequency, medium frequency, high frequency, very high frequency, ultra high frequency, super high frequency, extremely high frequency, and terahertz, or tremendously high frequency. Those are the bands. Now,
okay, you're talking 5 gigahertz, which is bandwidth in microwave band,
correct.
Which, boils water.
Yes. Now, here's what
do you think that does to the water in your body?
Oh, it starts to boil it.
What do you think it does when it's in every street, on every home in the neighborhood?
It makes people angry.
Well, it boils
and kills
water. And it is toxic. Dr. Beal in Florida has done extensive LD50 ratios on all the different bandwidths, on all the different brain, body, and organs. Now, guess what? The 0.3 to 3 gigahertz causes the temporal lobes to heat up and ring, which is what causes synthetic telepathy to work. Now, 5 gigahertz is enough to carry the 0.3 to 3 gigahertz, which means that if they have 5G on your meter, that means they can talk to individuals in your household and directly using an AI that has genetically separated your genetics from someone else in the household. Page 2. All of how many people are on antipsychotics in your neighborhood? That's where it is an endgame weapon potential.
Okay, Rick, you all right, so here's the point. So last night, our dog got up and he woke everybody up because he was lonely. He didn't want to sleep all by himself. So he wanted to, something's bothering all of our animals. And it's not just ours.
What do you think it is? Maybe this bandwidth is putting weird noises in his head? Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I decided to turn on the radio and just scan across the dial. And that's when I realized how bad this really is. 24 hours a day, satellites, AM, FM, microwaves, Wi-Fi, radar. It's all out there, and we are being cooked and bombarded 24 hours a day.
That's a good word, cooked. That's a good word.
Mm-hmm. Well,
we're being cooked.
Okay. And then there are the drones and all these satellites, and Elon Musk wants more. Well, you and I said that we would talk about how to build a microwave drone downing tool. Well, class, I'm not going to tell you how to do it, and I don't want Rick to either. But if you want to do it, if you want to look at how to build one of these things and maybe experiment, just go to YouTube and you type in microwave gun, and you will see video after video and these little drones flying around. And you'll see a guy that built one out of a microwave oven, and he just aimed it at a drone, and bang, it came down.
Hey, there's another way. I had a drone 4 days ago outside my bedroom window. I live in the country up on top of a hill in the woods. You can hear them. I'm putting netting above my window so that when I see one of these things, I drop the netting on it.
Well, that's a good choice. I've got a tool at the ready. It's got these little round things in it, and they're made out of lead. And
shoot him out of the air with a shotgun.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Use a number 12.
In terms 7.5.
of
7.5 is birdshot. It works really well for clay pigeons. These things are just like clay pigeons, and if you can hit a clay pigeon, you can easily hit one of these things. And I got to tell you, Rick, if someone's flying one of these over my farm, I will consider it a threat.
Yeah, but here's the bad news. The military now has them the size of flies.
Yes.
You can't see it. And they can put a shaped charge in it that will be enough that can take an individual out by hitting you in the head. And that is on a YouTube as a, TED Talks. There shows a guy demonstrating one, and then it shows an aircraft deploying 10,000 of them, each with a different name on it.
Rick, it'd be neat maybe next week if we talk about shaped charges, because toward the end of World War II, the Third Reich passed out to civilians something called a Panzerfaust. And it was like a stick with a launchable rocket on the end, and it would take out a tank because it had a shaped charge. Why don't we talk about shaped charges and why they work, the physics of that? Can we do that next week?
Sure. That's simple.
Okay. Yeah. So, class, we'll teach a little more physics, but you might want to go to YouTube and look up microwave gun and see what people have done. I'm not advocating it, but you might want to learn about it.